10 secrets you missed in Minions: The Rise of Gru. Minions: The Rise of Gru, the most recent animated movie of Illumination Studios and the sequel of one of the most liked animated movies ever. This movie is absolutely more vibrant, funny, and joyful than the first one, bringing a ton of fresh new things into the world of the Minions. Characters that make the storyline a lot more enjoyable to watch, and an amazing and fun new adventure that the Minions will start with the one and only Gru. Minions 2 is the perfect animated movie to watch if you want to have a great time and laugh a lot. The character's personality and behavior is just among the funniest things you can ever see. Minions 2 is such a great movie because it has an amazing story where the funny Minions join a young Gru on his quest to become the best villain ever. The adventures they take together are so funny and full of action that you don't have any time to get bored when you're watching it. It has amazing and peculiar animated graphics that make it more special and enjoyable to watch. And of course, new characters like none other than young Gru. A movie that is so good in every aspect that it makes for an awesome experience. Minions: The Rise of Gru tells us the story of the Minions during the 70s, where they meet young Gru, who allows them to join him in his adventure. Young Gru is trying to join a group of supervillains called the Vicious Six. This group ousted their leader called Wild Knuckles, and to find a new leader, they send an invitation to various people around the city, and one of them turns out to be young Gru. He goes to the interview, but things get a little bit messy and chaotic because, you guessed it, because of the Minions, and suddenly the Vicious Six start chasing young Gru and the Minions. Here Gru will get guidance from none other than Wild Knuckles to defeat the Vicious Six. In the process, young Gru and the Minions will go through the funniest, most outlandish and amazing adventures to try to make Gru the best supervillain ever. But there are many secrets that you guys have missed in Minions: The Rise of Gru. Secrets that you didn't notice because of how fun and dynamic the movie is, but secrets that definitely make the movie a lot more interesting. So without further ado, let's get straight into the 10 secrets you missed in Minions: The Rise of Gru. Let's go, guys! In one of the scenes of the movie when the Minions are being chased by the Vicious Six, after making a whole mess during Gru's interview to become their new leader, an old woman helps them out with the Six and starts teaching them karate and teaching them how to be a Shaolin warrior to protect their leader Gru. They start learning all sorts of trainings in a funny montage where they work hard to become the ultimate Shaolin karate masters to defend their leader. Then, before they get the green light from the woman, they leave to help Gru, thinking that they are strong enough. But in this scene, when they come to help Gru, we see that they're wearing a yellow jumpsuit and making karate signs. Well, this is a reference to none other than Bruce Lee, the great star of the 70s, which is the period when the movie is set in. In one of the most famous movies of Bruce Lee called The Game of Death, he wears a yellow jumpsuit which is exactly the same as the one we see the Minions wearing here. It's literally the same. If we compare the two, we see that it's completely obvious that it's the same. Bruce Lee was a martial artist and actor who was famous for his action movies in the 70s. His movies usually involved martial arts related storylines, which is what he excelled at. Bruce Lee is considered to be the best martial artist ever, and because of this, they gave him a funny reference here in Minions. A very funny scene. Later into the movie, we see that Gru is slowly learning how to become the best villain, which is his dream, and in the process of learning how to become one, he learns a lot from the words of his mentor, Wild Knuckles, who teaches him everything that he needs in order to become the best supervillain ever. Now, in one of the scenes of the movie when Gru is sitting inside the car with Wild Knuckles and he's showing him the Mona Lisa, he teaches him a very important lesson. He tells him to always aim for the moon. This may sound like a typical lesson that doesn't mean anything, it's just an animated scene, but it does. This is actually a reference to the first Despicable Me movie when Gru, now the greatest supervillain, steals the moon with the shrink ray, and when he has it in his hands, he says, "I got the moon." He's incredibly happy to have achieved what Wild Knuckles told him as a kid, to always aim for the moon. A great reference that means a lot in the Gru universe and meant a lot for him once he grew up and got the moon in his hands. One of the funniest scenes in the movie that made us all laugh is when later into the movie, Donna takes her ray and turns Kevin, Bob, and Stuart into animals, basically getting their inner beasts into the real world, which ends up helping them a lot to defeat the Vicious Six. Stuart is turned into a chicken, Bob is turned into a goat, and Kevin is turned into a rabbit. The three ally themselves and their powers to face the Vicious Six in a very funny scene. But during the fight, we see that Bob has the power to throw countless amounts of eggs, which he ends up throwing at the Vicious Six, but one of the eggs cracks and a baby chicken comes out. Now, this is a clear reference to Jurassic World, specifically Blue, the female velociraptor. She has the ability to make eggs without a male and uses them in various scenes throughout the Jurassic World movies. And on top of this, we know and we have seen the funny Jurassic World short where the Minions come up. This confirms the funny secret reference of Jurassic World in Minions 2. The main premise of the movie is young Gru trying to become the best supervillain ever, and he gets his first opportunity when the Vicious Six throw their leader out of the group and start a competition to elect their new leader. And one of the people who get the invitation card is young Gru. He gets super excited to join the group, and he goes to the interview. But before he comes into the room where the Vicious Six are actually going to interview him, he goes to the waiting room and he waits until he's called. But in the room, he finds other supervillains trying to go into the interview first. And if we zoom into the other supervillains, we see that one is wearing a mask on his face, and he's carrying a chainsaw in his back. Well, this is an obvious reference to Jason, one of the most iconic and legendary villains in history. Jason first appeared in the movie Friday the 13th as the main antagonist of the movie and the subsequent sequels. In the movie, Jason is a very scary character that chases the main characters with his iconic mask. And if we compare the two characters, we see that the reference is way more than obvious. Again, a funny secret reference in the movie. In the movie, we see one thing that we've been theorizing ever since the first movie came out, and this is the fact that most of the minions in Despicable Me are actually copies of the real minions. As we saw in the first Minions movie, the original minions were only 230, but then Gru came and cloned them to have more minions and become the best supervillain ever. How do we know this, Jay? Well, in Minions 2, we see a scene where one minion called Otto, who is very talkative and doesn't stop talking, actually faints from holding his breath when Gru tells him to stop talking. But in Despicable Me, we see a scene where a minion is able to breathe in space, while the original minions need air to be able to survive. This, along with the fact that we see far less minions in Minions 2 than in Despicable Me, tells us that the minions in Minions 2 are actually the original minions, and the ones in Despicable Me are mostly copies of the original ones. In Minions 2, there are many references to the 70s like we've seen up until now, but in one of the scenes at the beginning of the movie, when Gru is in class and everyone is talking about what they want to be when they grow up, Gru says he wants to be a supervillain, and everyone laughs at him, not knowing that decades later, that same kid would actually steal the moon to prove his point. But when he gets out of school, he finds that the minions are waiting for him at the door, wearing some funny wigs, and they live to the movies on a rocket motorcycle. Now, right in the scene after this one, we see the poster of the movie they're gonna watch, and if we zoom really close to see it, it's none other than a reference to Jaws. Jaws is a brilliant and legendary movie that was very popular in the 70s. It was also the highest grossing film in its time. Directed by Steven Spielberg, Jaws is a movie about a young woman that is attacked by a shark, which prompts the mayor of the city to hire a team of scientists to chase and capture the shark in his own territory. An amazing movie that shows the battle between humans and animals. Because of this, the directors in Minions 2 wanted to give it a reference in their movie. When Gru goes to the interview to become the leader of the Vicious Six start laughing at Gru for being a kid, and they tell him to come back when he's older and has done something to impress them. Gru gets sad over this and decides to do something about it. He takes one of his machines and he takes the medal of the Vicious Six, causing them to panic and to chase him throughout the city. But when he gets out, he finds that the minions are again waiting for him outside, and he takes them with him on his bike with the Vicious Six chasing them behind him. Now, in this scene, when one of the members of the Vicious Six throws a car at Gru and the minions, if we take a close look at the car, we can see that the car looks very familiar. Well, this is a reference to the Scooby-Doo van, also called the Mystery Machine. If we look at the Scooby-Doo van and we look at this one, we can see that they look identical. The flowers, the type of van, and the colors are exactly the same as the Scooby-Doo van. But to be adapted to the 70s, they used the iconic 70s hippie van. Scooby-Doo is an animated series that was created in 1969 by Ruby and Ken Spears. The series became massively popular during the 70s, and even to this day, it's considered to be one of the most iconic animated series ever. A funny reference to Scooby-Doo and Minions. When Gru goes into the cinema to watch Jaws and he sees that the whole cinema is full, he takes a green stink bomb and throws it into the cinema to watch the movie alone. Now, if we take a close look at the stink bomb that he throws into the cinema, we see that it's very similar to the Green Goblin bomb of Spider-Man. Norman Osborn, i.e. Green Goblin, is one of the many supervillains of the Spider-Man comics and the main supervillain of Spider-Man 1. Green Goblin always carries many objects with him, but one that he uses often in the comics and in the movies is his green smoke bomb that looks identical to that one of Gru in Minions 2. If we compare the two and we look at them apart, it's clear. So without a doubt, this is a reference to Green Goblin of Spider-Man in Minions 2. At the end of the movie, in the credits, we see many scenes with Gru and the minions going into many adventures together. A really fun set of scenes, and in one of the scenes that we see Gru and the minions dressing like none other than Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas. But the old version, not the new one with Johnny Depp. If we look at the old version of Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas, and then we look at the minions and Gru, we see that the secret reference is more than obvious. And well, my guys, that's all the dose of DJ there is for today. I really hope you guys liked this video and liked all of these amazing secrets you missed in Minions The Rise of Gru. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one, my guys. Peace!